So I grew up on Chad Brown Street, and which is in the Smith Hill section. So it was my mom and my dad, and I'm one of 5 children. I'm the 4th. I think when I think about Smith Hill and when I think about growing up, my best and fondest memories was the former Ruggles Street School, which became the Smith Hill Center. That was just the best time of my life. They had wonderful classes. They had a summer camp that was in Lincoln, Rhode Island. They had after-school activities. They had a game room meaning board games, nothing electronic, cardboard, paper things, plastic things. They had sewing, they had knitting, they had ceramics, they had woodworking. So I went every day after school. So I went to Camden Avenue School, so I would walk up Camden, come up Chad Brown. My mother would be in the window or on the porch and wave. Then I would continue walking up the street and go to Ruggles. What I loved about Smith Hill was there was such a diversity of folks. I myself am Armenian. There are a lot of Armenians in the Smith Hill area. A lot of Armenians grew up, you know, Chad Brown, Camden Avenue, Candace, Jewett, Osborne, all Douglas Avenue, and then a lot Malbone Street, all in that area, a lot of Armenians. But there also were a lot of other ethnic groups, you know, Polish, Jewish. A lot of my friends that I grew up with went to St. Pius, so they were Catholic. A lot of friends that were Jewish. So it really was a melting pot in that area. And both of my parents are Armenian. My dad was from Rhode Island, my mom from upper state New York. And my parents both very open-minded, very civic-minded. So we all had a lot of friends of diversity. So when I think of Smith Hill, I think of richness, I think of diversity, I think of the culture, and I think of the Smith Hill Center, which to me was just such a saving grace growing up because it was a place to go. It taught me a lot of wonderful skills. I met a lot of friends, like a lot of my friends from St. Pius I never would have met because I was at the Camden Avenue. Knitting, which I've always loved. My mom's an avid knitter and crocheter, and she actually took some classes there too, they had for adults. And that's a passion my mom and I share. It's nice, like the activities and joys of my youth that I've carried into my adulthood that I share with my mom, we're able to give back, and we're able to knit hats, crochet hats and scarves for the students of the Shakay Kizirian Elementary School. My dad really is the American dream come true. Both of his parents and my mom's parents all lost their original families during the Armenian genocide.
Their first like order of business, their first thing that the Ottoman Turks did, or the Young Turks rather, was they went into all the major cities and towns and they took all the like men from there, all the political leaders, all the priests, basically all like the people in charge.
Germantown, Florida, about a month ago, and I was walking by, and a gentleman was approaching me with a briefcase, and I glanced by and saw his name tag, and I was startled a little bit. I said, I saw the name, but I saw more important the word Turkey on it. It's kind of, what kind of reaction do I give this gentleman? I said, wow, hi, I'm Aaron Garabedian, I'm from Rhode Island. Oh, I see you're from Turkey. I said, yeah, that genocide was very, very unfortunate, wasn't it? He said to me, it never happened. It never happened.
Parents had a wonderful meeting. My mom is from upper state New York, Messina, which is right on the Canadian border. Again, my dad's from Providence. And so you think, how did these two meet? And again, my dad's photo was taken, and it was on the cover of the New York Times magazine. And my grandfather saw the photo, and he ripped it off, and he hung it in their store. He had a grocery store. And people would say, John, who is that? And he'd say, that's the man that Hazel's going to marry. And my dad and I believe my grandfather and I think his brother-in-law took a train. They were going to Detroit to visit the family of a Marine who was Armenian who died in my dad's arm. And my dad had promised him that I will, go visit your family in Detroit. So going to Detroit, they stopped off in Messina. And everybody was like, Harry Kizirian is here, the war hero, the person whose picture was on the cover of the New York Times magazine. And so my mom met him. And then they wrote back and forth. And at that time, people wrote letters. And you got mail delivery twice a day. So she'd get a letter in the morning. She'd write, and it would go out in the afternoon mail. And they would correspond back and forth, and then come to find out, my mom had some relatives here in Providence, and she'd come and visit. And so they did that for a bit, and then they were engaged November. It was a Marine Corps birthday. I said, did they do that on purpose? My mother was like, oh, no, it was just a coincidence. Yeah, right. And then they got married the following September. And so they were married 55 years. So my dad was born in Providence, the only son, only child of this union. Mm-hmm. And he worked very, very hard. All my grandparents really felt so blessed and so filled with gratitude to be able to be in America and to be safe and to start new families. And my dad worked very hard as a youngster, picking up coal from the train tracks and things like that. He lost his dad at a young age in a hit-and-run accident. And my dad graduated from high school. The very next day, he enlisted in the Marines. Didn't have to, but he chose to. He really wanted to give back to the country that was so good to his mom and dad. Prior to my dad going into the Marines, I know he had some part-time jobs at the post office, sweeping floors, things like that. And while he was in the Marines, I did actually have the opportunity not too long ago to read some letters, which just brought tears to my eyes, and just warmed my heart. He was so respectful, and he was writing letters to his former boss at the post office just to keep in touch. And he'd say, tell this when I said hello, tell this when I said hello. And then when he came back after the war, and he was highly, highly decorated. In fact, the most decorated Marine of World War II in the state of Rhode Island. He reconnected with his former boss and started back at the post office. And again, somebody who used to sweep the floors. And then at the age of 35, became the postmaster, the youngest in the country. And the post office was called the Turnkey Post Office. It was the first automated post office in the world. And my dad, at the age of 35, was the postmaster.
Smokes.
Exactly, holy smokes. So he was the postmaster for 25 years, highly decorated veteran. And then was involved in so many civic organizations, again, received 3 honorary doctorates. So someone had suggested when they were looking to rename the school, why not the Harry Kizirian Elementary School? They renamed the school. He was able to be there. My whole family was able to be there. And they had a music program, and it was just precious. But how lovely that he was there when it was dedicated, because so many things happen after the fact. And then they named the turnkey post office. It's the Harry Kizirian Post Office, and that was in 1996. And then the grounds of the post office are named after him, the Harry Kizirian Plaza. So I think all those things combined lend to Smith Hill boy, grow up, do good, give back to the community. Really a national treasure, a local treasure, but a national treasure. And so it's wonderful because when I go in or my mom goes in and all my siblings do their part to help support the school, it's so nice if the teacher or the principal says, do you know who this is? And you could just see it in their faces like, wow. And what was very precious, my dad died September of 2002. And again, the school had already been named, so the students knew of him. And they just drew the most precious pictures and wrote cards to our family. And it was just so precious, these little tombstones that said, rest in peace, or we'll miss you. And they might not have even have met him, but it was just so touching.